The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and some members meet with airline operators and regulatory agencies of the aviation sector. The meeting is to unravel the circumstances surrounding the increase in airfares brought about by scarcity and increase in aviation fuel.
1 year ago, he was selling...
The Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and the GMD of the NNPC brief on how dire the situation is.
Considering the cost of air ticket now, the base of 15 naira, the airline industry cannot survive. It's either we shut them down because they cannot generate enough revenue to operate safely, sir. I'm not even talking about cancellations and delays. I'm talking about safety of flight operations.
Today, the landing cost of air ticket today in the country today is 418 naira today. I just checked that with my colleague here. What would it be? The price that we have no control, that's what the international price is. It is 418 naira today.
The airline operators are disturbed by the hike in aviation fuel from 190 to 670 naira per litre.
We wanted to shut that, but when we look back, with the benefit of hindsight, what the legislation did for airlines, what the presidency did for airlines, we decided to sacrifice for this country. On this table, you find two Nigerian patrons because we are subsidizing what at each level one of you are using in flying. But we cannot continue. We cannot last the next 72 hours doing that.
We are now beginning to compromise even in our safety. All of us fly here. All of us fly here. Nobody, if you tell somebody to take cab, go by road to Maiduguri, you will not go. All of us fly here. So why are we trying to compromise our safety? It's a critical issue. Who is bringing this fuel? And what price are they bringing? Somebody has to regulate them.
Attention turns to the Consumer Protection Council, which is accused of not doing its job.
Our intervention was forced to other airlines that they cannot coordinate.
Do you have the communication?
Well, it was online. We put it out.
Have the communication?
I do not have it here, but the airlines do not dispute that they received an order. Every airline here received an order from the FCCPC.
Who would be doing business that will have this market increase and maintain the same price if it's their own business?
No,
let's be honest.
And we understand that, right, Honorable.
And that's why I'm asking you, you as an agent of government, you are supposed to be concerned about the price, you are supposed to monitor, so you are failing your duty.
Respectfully, sir.
It's okay, thank you.
A GMD, whoever is responsible, whether regulatory, supervisory, authority, whatever it is, you know what the law is. And you know the law better than all of us here. In fact, you drop the process.
The lawmakers are concerned about the continued price increase, as well as the reason why marketers are insisting on upfront cash payment. The marketers are to appear before the committee subsequently for further investigation. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
That was at about March 10 when aviation fuel price undulated around 670 naira to the litre. The question you want to ask is, how much is it now? Some are saying something around 700 naira a litre and all. That added to the fact that when you board an aircraft, you're only concerned about comfort and getting to your destination. But the industry is a lot bigger than that. Perhaps there are some considerations that we all need to have in this melee going on between the aviation, airline operators and the government and all of the issues. This morning, Captain Ado Sanusi joins us. He's an aviation expert, and you've been practically in every sector of the aviation sector,
yeah.
Both as an operator, as a manager, and now as a consultant.
Yeah.
Is it possible that there are issues around this whole thing that people don't understand?
Yes, first, thank you very much for having me. There's an issue I think we don't understand. We are actually overlooking. We are operating in a deregulated market, both in the oil and gas for the ATK, that is the aviation fuel, And also in the aviation industry, we're deregulated. So it means that AON...
Completely deregulated.
Completely deregulated. So AON can sell their ticket the amount they wish to sell their tickets. The same thing, the Jet A1 importers, they are allowed to import, source their foreign exchange, import and sell the way they feel they should sell. But all this, because we are a nation of laws, there are authorities that are responsible to ensure that the pricing of all these things are done in a standard manner. For the oil and gas, of course, there is the Nigerian midstream and downstream regulatory authority that regulates the importation of Jet A1. But I respectively disagree with the stand of AON by saying that they're going to shut down. It's a free market economy, and I said part of the things of a free market economy is when there's a price increase, you also review your prices and increase the price accordingly. I don't think you should put the flying public into a kind of despair, saying that you're going to close shop completely. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
That has happened.
Yeah.
During when the lockdown was ebbing out, we saw people who posted videos of themselves online on aircrafts that were literally empty. 120,000 naira cannot adequately support one aircraft for 1 hour in the air. So don't you think that the concerns of the airline operators, I mean, you've been there, so don't you think those concerns are justified?
No, definitely the concerns are there. And the cost of operation of an airline is increasingly going up. That is no doubt about it. And part of the cost is the Jet A1. Another is the high rise of the exchange rate. But if I hear people touting 120,000 naira, at what exchange rate are they talking about? Are they talking about the CBN exchange rate? But if you now say that for an hour's flight, you are talking about $80 for an hour's flight, or $100 for an hour's flight, and then you look at the exchange rate, because this is an international industry with international standards that we follow. So the 120,000 naira that they are touting, I don't know whether they're talking about for an hour's flight. If it's for an hour's flight, is it what is obtainable in other parts of the world? The fact that Jet A1 is going to be probably 700 naira per liter, it's a reflection of what is happening in the world. There is a plat price, what they call plat price, which is the internationally recognized pricing for the ATK. Now, if you bring it to Nigeria, of course, you have to be plat plus something because of transportation and other taxes that will be added. Naturally, because of the shutting down of Russia's oil because of the war, the prices increased, plat increased. And I think AON should wake up and understand that the federal government is not going to subsidize their private businesses. And they should start looking at increasing their prices to reflect the reality.
Wouldn't they lose more costs? Okay, just go ahead.
Sorry, Captain.
Yeah.
Even if they reviewed their prices, you know, I took time to look at the prices yesterday. And if, correct me if I'm wrong now, if an aircraft spends 4,000 liters of Jet A1 fuel for a 1 hour flight, and, you know, a liter of Jet A1 fuel costs 700 naira. 700 naira times 4,000. If an airline does 6 flights on the average per day, it's spending an average of about 28 million naira in that region per day. Can any airline survive on that? And even if they increase, you know, the price of tickets for consumers, for passengers, it would still not meet. How many passengers are they carrying per aircraft? Max 150.
Well, you see, then you go back to your business model. and see whether that airplane that you are using is a good airplane for the circumstances you find yourself in. If the aircraft is consuming 4,000 liters an hour, then you probably look for an airplane that will consume maybe less than that, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 liters per hour. But if we are not mindful of this increase of Jet A1, and we do not address it, we don't expect the federal government to give us subsidy for Jet A1. I don't think it's a good idea. I think there should be an intervention for bringing the cargo in. So let's say NNPC can bring the cargo for the Jet A1 and ensure that the landing prices, as I said in my last interview, the landing prices are quite transparent and they don't, there is no exorbitant profit on it. And I believe it will probably be as low as probably 500 or maybe 550 naira per liter. Then that intervention can go till when we start refining this product. And I believe that Dangote's refinery is coming on board very soon, probably in 8 to 10 months. And I think that will actually give the Jet A1 a stable price, and because we are now refining the product and we don't have to import it.
Speak to this concern. I have been concerned about this one. I've been a little worried about it. The arrangements, the challenges that the local operators, airline operators are having now, foreign airlines don't have it, it would seem. There are those who say there is already an agreement, so like it's a yearly agreement or something where the fuel price for international aircraft are not increased, or it doesn't change at all, whatever the circumstances are. I'm wondering, first of all, you can confirm if that is true, and if it is so, how come such an arrangement can't be made with local airline operators?
It's called fuel hedging. So what the international airlines they do is, because they know their operations are very stable. They know that they consume 1,500,000 liters a month. So the airline will go and say, look, I'm consuming this and I'm going to buy this from you at so price. And then they will lock up the price and pay for their fuel. So that gives them the liberty to sell tickets, because they know that every ticket they're selling at that region. Now, the international airlines are still having the same issues that we're having. The prices increased the same way.
Jet A1?
Jet A1, yes. In Nigeria, it increased. I was consulting for another carrier, and they were complaining that Jet A1 is very expensive in Nigeria. In Kano, it's close to $1.47 per liter, and that's quite expensive. Now, why is it expensive? Because we don't refine it. So that means we have to buy it outside and then transport it, bring it to Apapa, and then transport it all the way to Kano and to Maiduguri and the rest of the places. So it's going to be expensive. And until we have the refinery on board and they can pipe the ATK to areas up north, the prices will also be, even after the refinery comes in, the prices will also reflect the transportation cost to those places. And the reason why I'm a bit worried is that the airlines should understand this, because this is very basic in airline management. They should understand this and take care of it right from the get-go. And they should wake up and understand that we're not going to go to government and start asking for bailouts.
Are you saying that the whole threats of the AON has
no basis?
Had no basis in the first place?
Of course. What was the basis on? It's simple. Let me give you an instance. If, for instance, the Airbus industry and Boeing come together and say, well, because of inflation, because of raw materials, we are now going to charge 30% on a 30% more on a brand new airplane. Will the airlines of the world say, no, we will not fly, we will not buy your airplanes again, or we will not fly again, or first we will shut down because you've increased fares? They will not say that. they will reflect that increase in their new ticket price the moment they buy that product. They will reflect it on their ticket prices to ensure that they are profitable.
Speaking of hedge funds that you talked about, as it has to do with international airlines, I want to believe that it has that local airlines too can access some sort of hedge funding to protect them from volatility, buy in bulk. But then they're at the mercy of the uncertainty of forex. So they complain that the international airlines favor, that major marketers favor the international airlines, and not every one of the domestic airlines can get forex cheap. What form of protectionist policy would you recommend that government puts in place? For, at least it has to do with the national economy for the domestic airlines.
So you see, the recurrence decimal there is foreign exchange. Why are the international airlines, why are they the ones that are being favored? They are only favored because they pay in dollars. Because the marketers will get foreign exchange paid in dollars. So that is why the oil companies or the marketers sell to these international operators. So the only thing that we can do is to ask the federal government to make foreign exchange available to airlines, and to ensure that foreign exchange is available at, of course, at the good price, and then fuel hedging will be easy, because then when you pay, the fuel marketers can buy and keep it for you at that price. But the international airlines pay in dollars, so the
So
fuel
major marketers will
go there definitely.
But then is the federal government, offering that intervention in favor of domestic airlines satisfactorily?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they are, especially in the form of foreign exchange. But we also have to understand the country is it's having some crisis economically because of the foreign exchange. There's a lot of demand on the foreign exchange, and aviation is part of it. So we also must think that as an airline, we must think and operate within this situation that we find ourselves in.
Do you see a role for the federal government of Nigeria? I had to pause to say federal government of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Do you see a role for the federal government of Nigeria in mitigating these vagaries? You are a businessman as well. So when you are unable to determine certain things or predict certain things in business, or rather outside of your bands of omission or errors or whatever, once it falls off way above, it becomes a little more tasking for you to navigate around it without doing harm. I'm asking this concerning the responsibility or what role federal government can play in this, because if prices are increased, the likelihood of patronage dropping is high.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the airlines themselves will not be able to operate maximally profitably. Job losses are imminent. Even the aviation staff of government, NCA, FAA, and everyone's job, so to speak, is at risk. And I'm sure we're not just talking about 10 jobs here. So do you see a role for the federal government in mitigating the risks that we've just talked about?
Absolutely. Absolutely, that is the role actually the federal government should play, putting policies that will bring a better environment, operating environment for the airlines. Now, what are the policies they should bring in? Especially the foreign exchange should be made available to the airlines. Then stability of price of Jet A1 should be made. It's very simple to do that, as I said. I've said it several times. There is so many ways you can get the stability of Jet A1 pricing. I mean, we have it in other countries where they're even at war, and the pricing is stable. So it's very simple to do that. And the easiest thing is for federal government to bring the cargo in. And when they bring the cargo in, and this is not going to be forever. It's just going to be for the time when we are going to start refining the product. So when the federal government brings the cargo in, they allocate it to the marketers, not to middlemen, to the marketers. And they allocate it to the marketers, and the marketers put it on the airplanes. And so for the next 10 to 12 months, there will be stability of that. And the moment we start refining the product in Nigeria, there will be stability of the pricing. And the moment there's stability of the pricing, the cost to the airlines is known. It's not arbitrary, or it cannot go up, or it cannot be a runaway pricing, because it's all done. And the form of hedging could be done directly with the refinery, stating that, look, airline A is going to take 2 million liters every month. I need 2 million liters. I can even pay the refinery. Internationally, some airlines even own part of the refineries.
Well, we'll come to that, because that's one of the issues that have also been canvassed by some people. And fuel is just one of those issues in the dynamics. Let's listen to this comment on March 23rd. That's quite a little while ago, by one of the airline operators.
We want to make bold to say that airlines of Nigeria never got together to increase their base fares. It never happened. We debunk that insinuation that the airlines got together we debunk that insinuation that airlines got together to fix prices. And I want to say something here, whether we believe it or we don't believe it. The 50,000 you have seen on our inventory has always been there. For the last 5 years, 50,000 fare has always been there. During Christmas time, December, the period of December, you notice that fares, the basic fares going to certain areas in the country will be maybe 60, 70,000. Airlines didn't come together to decide to do that. It's a matter of you working out your unit cost per seat of your operations. What is the unit cost per seat of your operation? That will determine your basis. During those periods, you notice that some areas you will fly into full and you'll be coming out with 0 passengers. So airlines will just on their own individually fix their prices to, at least get their costs covered. In the same vein, Jet A1 fuel has risen from 200 naira to a liter to 430 naira to a liter. It's only a very stupid businessman that would not know that there is fire in the mountain. The ground handling companies increased their charges by 300%. And they reported to NCA, they got together to do that. They went to the National Assembly and they said they didn't hide it. And it has been approved for them. The ground handling companies, who is responsible for the payment of their wages? Airlines. So if the cost of my operations all of a sudden has gone 300% on the increase, just from the ground handling services alone, what do I do? If the cost of aviation fuel has risen to over 200% within a month, what should I do? If the cost of forex has risen from 300 naira, 340 naira, all of a sudden to 585 naira, what should I do? Gentlemen, do not forget that airlines, our business is dollarized. Everything is in dollar. Do you want to fall out of the skies? Do you want to fly safe in Nigeria? Foreigners have been asking questions, not even now, since 3 years ago, that how do you people maintain your planes with the kind of fares you charge in Nigeria? In the year 2000, the least fare in Nigeria was 2,200 naira, which was equivalent of $100 then. I was about 1998, equivalent of $100 then. Now, 22 years down the line, Nigerian airlines were flying in this country for less than $30, $40. Do you need to look for reasons why airlines are closing shop in this country? Over 50 airlines have gone down in this country. Has anybody bothered to find out why?
This was on March 23.
Yeah.
This year, just to be clear. And of course, you've heard, we've spoken quite copiously about the fuel price. It was then 200 to 430. Now it's 700, and definitely those concerns you have spoken to are genuine. He also spoke to ground handling companies who did what you don't like. Got together, you know, and they increased their charges by 300%. He said, and they are not hiding it. Certainly, it's not the best of time for aviators now, and the concern remains: how do we ensure that they don't go underground?
Well, I think there must be a concerted effort to ensure that the federal government gives a lot of incentives to keep them afloat. Now, I don't subscribe to bailouts, but I think the airlines are actually struggling, and they've been struggling for a long time. The increase in fuel prices is definitely going to affect their survivability. But I believe that if federal government should act by the importing of this Jet A1, it will help them, and also by making available foreign exchange at CBN rate, at the official rate, it will also help them a lot to survive. It's not in the interest of the economy, it's not in the interest of the security of the country for airlines to keep going down. But I also have to say this to warn that whenever there is any form of bailout, there must be conditions attached to those bailouts. And usually the bailouts I've seen in aviation in this country have resulted to more closure of airlines than surviving of the airlines. The moment you have a bailout from government, then the government will dictate your business. And then that is the beginning of your failure.
Well, before we let you go, Captain, let's talk about something that we're not paying close attention to. I recall it was said by one of the airline operators in the first report we watched, also from way back in March. He was expressing concern about safety, not just, the loss of revenue now for the airlines and all their other concerns about costs. He emphasized on safety. And let's set that against the backdrop of, an air mishap recorded recently, for which the AIB came out to say later on that it was due to fuel exhaustion. Give us a sense of how much danger that portends, from your experience in aviation.
First, as an aviator, I will say that we sell safety. So no airline is going to compromise with safety. Whether the fuel goes to 1,000 naira per liter, no airline would do that. That's what we sell. So if we sell safety, why would we compromise it? So the moment you're not safe as an airline, then you're going to lose your, first you lose your license, and then you lose your business. There are some sharp practices maybe people would think that they will get away with, but aviation is a very unforgiving industry. Safety is very critical. I do not think any airline will compromise safety because of rise in fuel prices or you could not get foreign exchange. They would rather shut down. Well, if I run an airline, I would rather shut down the airline because I cannot operate it safely, than operate it unsafe.
But what did he mean?
Well, I think it's sentiments that he's trying to bring out so that they can listen and understand their plight. I think that's all that they're trying to do.
Okay.
But we are highly regulated, and the pilots will not compromise. First, they cannot take off with fuel that will not take them to Abuja. Secondly, there is so many checks and balances that if the fuel is contaminated, it cannot be put on the airplane. And even if they're putting it, the pilot also have to see and understand what kind of fuel they're putting on the airplane. So it's quite safe.
Well, one of the concerns that's been around is, I mean, just as you also mentioned now, the risk of shutting down, which you have spoken to a few times.
Yeah.
And there is an airline that I'm sure you are very well aware of, Aero Contractors, that's said to be, that may be on the way to shutting down, and that's just one. 61 years after, and that is happening. And part of the reasons given is the cost of maintenance, unavailability of foreign exchange, high fuel price, and low passenger traffic. And this is for the one that we know. And of course, you spoke copiously about this in time past. In giving us a semblance, a sense of what people may not be aware of concerning that airline that is likely going down, how many other airlines are at such risk?
I would say most airlines are struggling. And now most airlines in the country are struggling. And so if you're struggling, what you need to do is try and cut your costs and re-strategize your business and make sure you survive. I believe Aero Contractors will survive. I strongly believe they will survive.
Despite all these challenges.
Yeah, despite these challenges that you mentioned, I believe with good and smart management, they can survive. I believe they can. I mean, 61 years is not a joke. Mm-hmm. And if Aero Contractors should go under, that means the oldest airline in the country is no longer there. But I think they have seen worst situation and they have survived, and I think they will survive. Now, all the airlines are all struggling. They are all struggling. Now, the only thing that we should...
Just a second. Okay. Do you think government and all stakeholders in the sector are aware of how seriously aviators are struggling?
That's where I was going, actually. I don't think the federal government and other stakeholders in Nigeria understands the pains the airlines are going through. And if they do, then they are just sweeping it under the carpet, because there's a lot. And as the AON vice chairman said, that the airlines have been going under, but we have not actually looked at the reason why they are going under. And I think that's supposed to be a case study to see why are the airlines not surviving. Why is the average age of an airline in this country 10 to 15 years they are going to go under? Why? So those are the things that we should actually look at and then correct it, so that we don't make the same mistake and think that we're going to get different results. The Nigeria Airways went under, the Cabos, the Okadas went under. I can continue mentioning names of airlines that were to go under. And of course, these sets of airlines that we have now are also struggling. And if care is not taken, then they will go under, and then new ones will come, and then that's what will happen.
Is it because of incompetence in management? Because if you recall that some of these airlines were under receivership, yet they were not able to recover, from their challenges.
There's so many things that are wrong with the airlines. The management, lack of corporate governance. It's major reason of most of the airlines going under. Then there are some external factors too. Foreign exchange, high cost of financing. The interest rates are killing. We don't get those kind of interest rates outside the country. The choice of aircrafts, mentioning that you have an airplane that is supposed to be flying for probably 3 hours and you're using it to fly 30, 40 minutes. And of course, the cost of maintenance will go high. So many factors are affecting the market in the country. And the reason is because most of the airlines, not all, most of the airlines did not do a strategic business study on the market they're entering into, the suitability of the aircraft, the routes they are going into, and all that. And then a very good corporate governance. I believe with this, you have a recipe for a successful airline.
Lastly, the federal government has released a statement. The aviators themselves have also said, okay, government has stepped in and said, okay, they're going to do something to ameliorate the pains. The aviation minister's aide put out a statement saying that the aviation minister has been at the forefront, taking the aviators to CBN, taking them to the NNPC, to ensure that some of these concerns are addressed. It would seem like those haven't really yielded any fruits. What, in your opinion, has to give from the aviators and from the federal government to forestall anything untoward, either with one airline operator or the industry?
No, I think they have not exhausted all the options that they have. And I believe that...
talking about the government or the aviators?
The aviators. Okay. I believe they should put more pressure because...
pressure on who?
Pressure on the government, on the federal government, to put more pressure on the federal government to give them specific points where what they want them to do. Like the point of we need cargo intervention. When you're going to say we need cargo intervention, you tell the federal government that in the next 10 months, we will need X metric tons of Jet A1 into the country, and it's strictly for domestic carriers. And it will be given to A, B, and C marketers, which we will follow diligently to make sure that it is used for the Nigerian market. And this intervention is only going to be for a period before Dangote's refinery comes on board. And I think if they do that, if they present their case with figures, and this is what we want, these are the people that you will give the fuel to, and this is the amount, and this is how we intend to monitor them. I think the federal government will say, okay, we will do that for you guys.
Sounds to me like you have a job to do.
And sounds to me like you want a balance between asking for intervention and subsidy so that the airlines can maintain their independence.
Yes, okay. Exactly. Because you know, the moment you ask for a bailout, then you will definitely have to give up something, because bailout comes with lots of conditions.
Okay. Yeah.
Captain Ado Sanusi, why do I always call you Baliro? Captain Ado Sanusi is an aviation expert. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
So, that's not the only sector that's been talking. The next one is telecoms, and that comes right after now.